We always enjoy the conversation with Clayton Safey from Rivals, thewolverine.com. You can check out his Twitter handle. You see it right there. And follow him on Twitter. Get on over to thewolverine.com as well. Like the video, share the videos out on social media, and subscribe, of course, here at the Voice of College Football. Clayton, of course, Jim Harbaugh made a big splash a couple of years ago with these satellite camps and caused a ruckus across the country, especially coming from the SEC. He's back at it. You've been able to attend some of the satellite camps. Give us a feel for what that's all about.
Yeah, it's fun to be back out in person and, seeing people and interacting and all that. And it seems like the Michigan staff is excited to be able to do that again as well. Jim Harbaugh was cooped up last summer instead of doing his usual satellite camp tour. So he looked excited to be back out there. There was a big mega camp up in Big Rapids, Michigan, about a week and a half ago now that we were up at. Ferris State University was the host, also partnered with Sound Mind, Sound Body, a huge organization here in the Detroit area. Over 1,000 kids at that camp. Over 70 college football staffs were in attendance, including some of the southern ones. Ole Miss, I saw Tennessee had some guys there. On and on and on. Arizona State, USC flew in a coach. So, plenty of coaching staffs and then plenty of top talent there. And we got a chance to interact with Jim Harbaugh there and talk to him for the first time in, since the beginning of spring ball, actually, for a press conference with him. And, he seemed fired up. He gave a speech to the campers. Seems like the reaction from a lot of people that saw some of the video and even some of my takeaways from, being up close and personal there were that he seems a little bit more energized that this new staff is something he's excited about, bringing in 6 new assistant coaches. And then it's fun to, it's been fun. I've been at 3 of these, but observing some of the new guys that are on the staff. It's kind of surreal looking at Mike Hart and seeing him in the coaching garb after, growing up watching him playing and, at Michigan, and obviously then going on to the NFL, starting, his coaching ranks and moving up. And now he's back at Michigan. Same with Ron Bellamy. And guys like that. But Mike McDonald, the new defensive coordinator, you can tell that the kids really like him. He's an intense guy. He's a focused guy. You should watch him during some of these drills, giving pointers. But then at the same time, you see him after the camp talking to kids and saying, all right, we'll see you up in Ann Arbor on, whatever date you're coming in on. So it's been interesting to finally see that up close with this new staff, because they've been kind of on campus now for 6 months, depends on when, each of them were hired. But now we're seeing that happen, and they seem to really connect with some of these kids. And so I think that's been fun to watch. You talk to these guys, on the record, off the record, and they seem to be excited about what's going on here, trying to, turn things around. They're acknowledging that this is kind of a reset after what was a tough season last year. They know what the mission is. They're not kind of shying away from that. I think people a lot of times have the perception that Michigan is, has the arrogance to them, and to an extent, I think they do. But at the same time, I think that this staff is kind of acknowledging where they're at. They're facing, the brutal facts of their reality right now, and kind of hitting the ground running.
I think it's fascinating because the positives and negatives are so clear in regards to, there seems to be this negative narrative across the country about Michigan football, but it's built on 6 games. There were 6 games played last year, and those were bad 6 games for the most part at 2-4, but 6 games. At the same time now, the negative is obviously trying to get past Ohio State, even beyond what happened in 2020, and trying to win a championship. But then you see all these top players still flooding to Michigan and considering Michigan. You mentioned the great defensive lineman, Nolan, coming up for a look and a serious look at Michigan. And he's basically surrounded by SEC offers. And he's got Michigan seriously in the mix. So the brand, the image, and Jim Harbaugh's pull is still as great as pretty much as it ever has been. And we see that again in the recruiting wins and the interest there in Michigan football. Clayton Safey's on the line, thewolverine.com, and I think he had something to say about that, Clayton.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that year, it did have an effect a little bit on recruiting, not necessarily in how they finished that last cycle. Because that interest was already kind of established, those relationships. They've been recruiting those kids, like every other program for a few years. I think that this year they're doing a good job, namely with some of these new coaches that have come in and who are plus recruiters. But at the same time, this fall, I think, is going to be really big for Michigan when it comes to recruiting. This is the fall where if it's another disaster on the field, I think you're going to, see things come crashing down. Not to be negative to the Michigan fans out there, but I think in recruiting, it's not going to be able to sustain itself. But I think if they're decent, if they're good, if they're really good, we'll see what happens on the field. Then it's going to be, even better, because I do think that some of these moves that Jim Harbaugh has made are, kind of having a big impact. So this is a big year on the field. They understand that they have, some ground to make up after last year. But like you said, it was 1 year. There was opt-outs. There was some injuries. I don't think they're using those as excuses. But it's clear that, there's still talent on this team. And if they can get it done on the field, I think the recruiting you're going to see just continue to kind of ascend a little bit here.